Nigel Farage sits before the start of a plenary session at the European Parliament, October 2, 2018, by FREDERICK Florin, AFP, Getty Images. His effort to ascertain the relationship between WikiLeaks and associates of the Trump campaign, Robert Mueller, has expanded his investigation to include Britain. As the Washington Post has reported, the special counsel has taken a keen interest in the so-called Bad Boys of Brexit, a group of reportedly hard-partying Britons who have ties to Russian officials, Brexit, and the Trump campaign. The name Nigel Farage, in particular, keeps coming up. Back in June, two Trump world sources told the Post that Mueller's office had asked about the British politician's relationship to Trump associates during witness interviews earlier in the year. Mueller has also reportedly asked questions about British financier Arron Banks, who donated £8 million to Farage's efforts to cleave the UK from the EU, a longtime goal of the Kremlin, following a boozy, 6-hour lunch with the Russian ambassador, after which Banks was offered several business opportunities in Russia, such as lucrative contracts in gold and diamond mines. As I reported last week, Banks is now being investigated by British authorities. Farage, meanwhile, apparently remains of interest to the FBI. On Tuesday, Jerome Corsi, a conservative author and conspiracy theorist who has been questioned by Mueller's team, told The Guardian that he was specifically asked about Farage and Ted Malloch, a London-based academic with ties to Trump and Brexit, 2 weeks ago in Washington. They asked about both Nigel and Ted Malloch. I can affirm that they did, he said. But I'm really not going into detail because I respect the special counsel and the legal process. A friend of Trump advisor Roger Stoney, Corsi, announced earlier this week that he expects to be indicted, following months of cooperation with the Mueller probe, for lying under oath. Whether that is true remains to be seen. Corsi, a former InfoWars contributor, was an aggressive proponent of birtherism and, after declaring himself to be in legal peril, immediately began soliciting funding for attorney fees. Nevertheless, Corsi is believed to be a potential intermediary for communications involving Stone and WikiLeaks, and the release of hacked Clinton campaign emails in the closing months of the 2016 election. That could help Mueller's team determine whether Stone, the infamous political trickster, who has a tattoo of Nixon inked across his back, had advanced knowledge of Russian cyber attacks. Stone, who first attracted attention by predicting on Twitter that Clinton campaign chair John Podesta would soon face his time in the barrel, has since said he was only bluffing and posturing. He has argued that he has no relationship with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, and that he learned of WikiLeaks' plans via public information and Randy Credico, a comedian and talk show host, who has also been questioned in the Russia probe. Corsi, who edited one of Stone's books, was reportedly implicated in the probe when Malloch was detained at a Boston airport in March. In a statement emailed to NBC News at the time, Malloch said he was grilled about Stone, Corsi, and WikiLeaks, and was asked if he has ever been to the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where Assange has been living since 2012. The new comments by Corsi suggest Mueller is zeroing in on the WikiLeaks question. The issue they went to over and over again was, who was my source with Assange, he said, admitting he had sent emails citing inside information from WikiLeaks that the site was going to drop the exchanges, but insisting, like Stone, that he was working on public knowledge, had never met Assange, and was simply angling to boost his status. Asked whether Mueller's questions about Farage were linked to Trump's election campaign or Brexit, Corsi replied, predominantly U.S. politics, but of course Brexit was in the background. The Guardian first reported Farage was a person of interest in the Russia investigation in June 2017. Since then, journalists on both sides of the Atlantic have been working to trace the ties between the Trump and Brexit votes. As the British government struggles to agree to the terms of a Brexit deal, Corsi's confirmation of Mueller's continued interest in Farage comes as British authorities probe the legitimacy of the Leave campaign on multiple fronts. Of particular interest is a series of meetings that Banks held with Russian contacts, during which they offered the businessman several lucrative deals. According to the New York Times, Mueller has obtained records of Banks's communications with Russian diplomats, although Corsi said that Banks's name did not crop up during his questioning. The scope of Russia's involvement in Britain and America's democratic institutions is still unknown. But Mueller shouldn't expect any easy answers from Farage, who can be remarkably forgetful. Caught by BuzzFeed News leaving Assange's residence at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, in March 2017, Farage said he could not remember what he had been doing in the building.